Domains of language behavior. Another way to understand multilingualism or bilingualism is to understand the different domains of language behavior. Now, this concept of language dominance and dominance configurations as a result was presented by Skimdit Ruher in 1963, and these were the times when they wanted to see how when the German language was coming into contact with other languages, so what was happening over there, and they wanted to map out those changes. So looking at language or looking at this use of language in different domains highlights different choices or overall choices in different areas of activity. So in different domains of behavior, if we were to say, Skimdit initially pointed out 9 different domains. For instance, the domain of family. He was interested in finding out what are the language choices made by the family and which languages are used there. What about the playground and the street? Which languages do children use in the playground? Which languages do bilinguals use when they are in the street? What about when they attend a church or any other religious institution? What about the literature? What is most of the literature belonging to that community? Which language is it in? Or which literature does this community has access to, and in which language? What about the press? So the newspaper, the media, which languages are being used over there? What about the military? Which is the language that is used for military training? Which languages are encouraged by military institutions? And which languages do the officers use? Then it comes to the courts. These courts disseminating justice, passing laws. So what are the language that is that is done in all this service is being done? What languages do they use when they are hearing the lawsuits? Which languages are being used by the governmental administration? So all these were important domains or different domains in which he argued that language choice might be studied. Now, for our own work, we could choose any one domain, we could choose 2 domains, we could choose 3 or 4 domains, but this categorization of domains allows us to systemize the study of language that we want to undertake. There were others who actually added to these domains. There were some who cut down on those domains and they considered only those domains to be important, but we do not want to go into a discussion of that, because when you take up your research, then you can actually choose which domains would you like to work in. The only important part in this choice is that you should be able to defend it and say, why did you choose these domains over other domains? Now, an interesting thing is that the domain of workplace has often been ignored when people choose or add more domains to language behavior. Another interesting thing about domains is that these domains of language behavior are somehow very similar to spheres of activity that have been presented by different researchers and sociologists who have not been actually interested in language, but they have pointed out these to actually study intergroup relationships and to study acculturization, that how do people get socialized into a different culture and adopt its norms. So we can also use it for language to study language behavior. Spheres of activity have also been defined as institutional context, because these are the institutions, like family is an institution itself, education is an institution. So these can also be seen as institutional context. They can also be seen as socio-ecological co-occurrences. That is, there is this whole ecology of human activity, and so change in one activity will lead to a change in another one, and that is how we call it an ecological system. So you can also study languages keeping that concept in mind. But in any case, we'll discuss it more in detail. This all helps us in understanding the socio-cultural norms and practices of language behavior when we take into account language domains.